Well, good afternoon, Spartan fans. Guy Danhoff here, and we're bringing to you the MBU Football Coaches Show, the social distancing edition. I'm joined now with Coach B. Coach, it's been a while since I've actually seen you. I think our last broadcast was actually up at the brand new Spartan Field with the new press box, and that's when we did obviously the National Signing Day show. And since then, it's been COVID-19. I have to start with, how are you doing? Because for what I can tell on social media, you've been on the tractor a lot. So maybe you can share with Spartan fans what's going on with that.
Well, yeah, I kind of joke. It's kind of a half joke, but I always say that I go to work so that I don't have to stay home and work because, living on a farm, there's plenty of stuff that people wrangle you into doing. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that Spartan fans maybe wouldn't recognize if we took the camera and followed me around outside every now and then. Doing well. I will say we are very blessed to be able to live on the farm and have some land and be able to go outside and do some stuff. So, I really don't know how people do it just where they've had to stay in a house or apartment and it's hard to get outside, but that's been a blessing and, doing well, been able to get a lot of work done here from home in the recruiting side of things. And, it's a little different, obviously, but there's been some good stuff out of it as well, and still able to get a lot of stuff done.
Well, that sounds good. I mean, obviously, it's nice to see that you and the family are doing very well. Obviously, all things considered. And for myself, I'll be going to be very honest with you. I really missed spring ball. I actually mentioned that on the Spartan Update show, and I know we all are. Yeah. Certainly, we wanted to play, on the not that the field's new, but everything else is new. And to bring some fans into the new stands would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, missing spring ball was a big blow to us. I think a big blow to colleges and coaches everywhere. I've been on a bunch of Zoom clinics. Guys have done a whole bunch of clinics online, and it's been good to get on some of those and learn some new stuff. But I think overall, you're just trying to make the best out of a bad situation. We were really looking forward to getting some reps out there and trying some new things and taking a look at some stuff. So not having that was a big disappointment. I know, talking to the guys, they were all geared up and ready to get it back out there as well. So, definitely hit hard when we were in that time. I think now that we're through that time, it doesn't sting as bad because
right.
We would be on to junior recruiting and stuff like that. And we have a good leg up on that right now, which is a good thing. But no, you're exactly right. I definitely missed being out there with the guys and being back out on the field with the whistle.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, let's follow up on the recruiting side, because I know you guys have been very active recruiting, as well as a lot of our coaches have been doing. But specifically, I know that you guys recently are in the midst of, I think you had one yesterday and then one 2 weeks ago. Talk to us about the junior recruiting day, because it seems like it's gone over really well with that virtual version.
Yeah, we kind of stumbled into that. We actually there was a recruit, a 2021 recruit that I was talking to on Twitter, and he sent me a direct message and asked if we were doing any virtual junior days. And I was like, no, but tell me more about that. What is that? Who's doing that? And he just kind of told me, hey, there's a couple schools that were recruiting him. We're doing like a Zoom junior day. And
yeah,
I was like, wow, that is a great idea. So a couple weeks ago, we got that put together, launched it last week for the first time. We had about 45 guys that joined us on that Zoom call. A couple of the coaches were on there, and then we had about 35 more yesterday. And Coach Coe and Coach Bowden were able to jump on yesterday and kind of talk to the guys. It's been really beneficial. It's actually something that I think we're going to I talked to Coach Bowden, who's our recruiting coordinator, afterward. And I told him, my idea is that we're going to keep doing this. Even when all this stuff clears, that this is going to be something that, like, on a game day, especially as we get into winter recruiting and then again next spring, But
Right.
I really think that what we need to do is continue to do these virtual days, because it gives people an opportunity that normally wouldn't have the ability to come to campus and
Right.
join us in person, whether it be financially or distance, travel, that kind of stuff. Looking at our call yesterday, we had guys from Texas, Louisiana, Florida, California, Massachusetts, Michigan. I mean, they were Oregon. There was people from all over the country that were able to join us, learn about Missouri Baptist University, learn about Missouri Baptist football, and really the St. Louis area. Because
Right.
we kind of take them on a virtual tour through pictures of campus and the facility and the surrounding area, which I think is just a beautiful um, place to sell not just our campus but also the area.
Right.
So it's been really, really neat. And the cool thing is with the ability on Zoom, with the chat box and the ability to ask questions, these guys are asking some great questions. We're able to get a lot of things answered for them, and they get a good feel for who we are right away.
Well, I got to tell you, it's pretty exciting to hear how technology is really benefiting you. I know, as you probably know, I did, the coaches show with Coach Ushold yesterday, and he was also talking about how this time has helped with technology. And I'm glad to see, obviously, you're able to use it for recruiting purposes, get greater reach, and certainly get to be able to tell the MBU football story a lot more to more athletes. So this is really exciting news. With that, do you have any key signees since maybe the last time we talked, which was, I know, a while ago? On National Signing Day? Has there been any kind of significant signing since?
We've added a couple guys, a few local guys. Probably the one that is the most, I'm very excited about. I don't know if most excited is the right term, because I get excited about all of them. But just kind of a neat story is a young man named Christian Simmons, and that
Okay.
name probably doesn't ring a bell to most Spartan fans, but he comes from a long line of athletes. His grandfather played professional baseball and coached a long time. Actually coached in the NFL for a little while. His grandpa is actually Coach Co.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, so no, it's going to be really fun. We signed Christian, and I know Coach Co is really looking forward to getting him up here. He lives in Texas, so it's not always easiest for Coach Co and his wife Debbie to go and visit Christian down there.
Yeah.
Christian comes up and sees them, but to be around him and get an opportunity to coach him, I know he's really excited about, and I am as well. Kind of a neat story about Christian is when we first moved into the new facility, prior to it being a stadium, but when it first opened as a coach's offices and locker room,
Yeah.
Christian was up visiting grandma and grandpa during fall camp. And so he came to all the practices and meetings and hung out. And, when we were in non-pads and messing around, Coach Kern, he was a running back. So Coach Kern would put him through the bag drills with the players. And at that time, Christian was an 8th grader.
Oh my gosh.
And we gave him a little practice jersey, and he really just loved it. And everywhere, and this is a name from the past, but everywhere that Antonio Barton went,
Mm-hmm.
Christian went. And it was just really neat to see how our guys can be an impact on young guys. And when I signed him, I kind of told him, here we are, 5 years later, you actually get to put that uniform on and be a Spartan. And he was really excited. So kind of a fun story. Like I said, I get excited about all the guys that signed, but that's going to be a really special one.
Yeah. For Spartan fans who may not know, Barton happened to be our top rusher until recently. Chris Baldwin, with all the touchdowns he scored, and Barton was a fantastic runner for us and scoring lots of touchdowns in those early days. What a great story there, Coach. And just to let you guys know, Spartan fans know the lineage of Coach Co. And Coach, I know you know the story, but it's really crazy to say this, but I actually played on the same football team at West Illinois with Coach Co's son, Rodney.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
You talk about Coach Co, and wow. I mean,
Yeah.
That's crazy to think that I played with his son.
Yeah.
just to let you know how much Coach Co's been in the coaching ranks and how long, and just to still see him kicking at a high level is so exciting. We're so blessed to have him and
Yep.
his wisdom and his stories. And oh my gosh, every time I know when I get a chance to come out to meet with you guys, right, when you guys are out, just before practice starts, and he's got so many just cool stories of things that are going on in his perspective. And every year I ask him when camp starts, what year is this for you? And now he's got to the place where he won't even tell me, because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
he has, he has to get out, he has to get a calculator out.
well, it might be because he's lost count. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you do it as long as he does, you've got that right. But no,
Yeah.
it's really awesome. And then this year, we're moving him with the loss of Coach Simmons, who
Right.
took a job at his alma mater, Western Carolina, and he's doing well down there. I know he's getting cabin fever. I've talked to him a couple times, but um, we moved Coach Co then to defensive line, which
Okay.
he coached, I want to say at Cincinnati, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been a while. And he's such a great offensive mind, and I really lean on him still on the offensive side in that perspective. But I do think that there's a certain amount of kind of breathe some new life into him a little bit, and that it's a little something new. He's got to go and study a little bit because it's been a while, and fresh back up. And, it just, those new challenges make a big difference for you. And I know he'll do a great job with our D line.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you this question. I think it's a great question. I've asked it actually of every show I've hosted recently, and I think it's a sign of the time. So, as Spartan fans know, during the COVID-19, we've had, as I joked about yesterday, too much time on our hands in some regards. But with that time, what have you done to kind of reflect now that you're not have been in the grind of like the heavy hardcore spring ball, all that time you get tied up. Now you've got a chance to really kind of think. Is there going to be anything that maybe has been revealed to you that you're going to be changing moving forward, other than what you mentioned about the recruiting, using the junior day and on game day, using the technology? Is there anything else maybe you plan on doing differently because you've had a chance to reflect?
Not widespread differently. I think when I reflect on who we are as a whole program,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're still on a really good path. We're on a really good trajectory. I do think that there's some things offensively and defensively, schematically that I want to take a look at. There is a little bit that I've been studying in regards to how you prepare and how you practice. Um, that I've kind of researched and tried to learn a little bit more about some stuff that I actually heard about last year talking to some of the coaches in our league,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really what they call um, like I don't know the exact name. Everybody calls it a little different, but it's like no sweat Thursday
Okay.
practice schedule is what
Sure.
it is. Basically you take your normal week that we've kind of been accustomed with, with kind of a review slower Monday, a big heavy Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit lighter Thursday, and then obviously a walkthrough Friday. And
Yep.
basically what you're doing is you're flip-flopping those days, that you're actually doing more of no pads, walk through, not break a sweat on Thursday, and then going harder on Friday.
Hmm.
You're not going maybe as long, but you're going full speed and hard. And so the the one thing that's interesting about that is, that really started with Chip Kelly, as Chip Kelly,
Mhm.
has done a lot of studying on what makes a body perform at a high level.
Right.
That his belief is, if we want guys to really start fast on a Saturday, and we really want them to get into the game mode quicker, we can't totally shut them down for 48 hours before a game. In other words, you practice hard on Thursday, and then you don't do hardly anything except the slight walkthrough on Friday,
Right.
and you want them to be full speed ready to go on a Saturday afternoon. Um, so there's a certain amount of kicking that into gear and flipping that around, which has been interesting to study. I think I got to learn a little bit more about it, exactly how it all fits together. But that is something that we're looking at. Outside of that, schematically, I've had an opportunity to watch a lot of film, not just of us, but
Right.
of other teams, and just kind of get maybe a few new ideas of, hey, that's kind of nice, and take a look at it. But I
Right.
think the biggest thing that I've learned over the years of coaching is that you got to be careful of doing too much and putting too much on guys' plates. So, I'm a big believer in, okay, if we're going to add something, what are we going to take out? And
Right.
going from there.
Just from hearing this for the first time, I'll be honest with you. I think, again, thinking back when I was a player, I could see why that would be very beneficial, getting a lot more muscle memory. Plus, I think you just remember things easier if it's 24 hours beforehand and you were executing where you didn't have to think as much, especially when you go through
Yeah.
some of the situational things that you do to prepare for a game. I'm only saying it because I'm from playing center, always having to make the line calls, that quick recognition, and then you do that. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out as you guys maybe incorporate that moving forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting concept,
Yeah.
and one of the things that is very intriguing is, that we have had conversations, and you've watched a lot of our games, but we've had conversations in the past where, hey, warm-ups were really sluggish and we start slow. How do we
Yep.
get a quicker start? And we've incorporated some things that these other coaches have implemented and stuff like that, such as we'll go into a competition period right after stretch in practice.
Right.
We'll do some of that just to not have that slow buildup that you sometimes get in practices.
Yeah.
That we're going to go, hey, we're going to go, and we're going to go right now, right after stretch, we're going, and that has helped us some. But it's an interesting point of view. The key and the thing that I think in studying it becomes apparent is when you go to this format, you are really expecting a high level of execution on Thursday and Friday, especially
Correct.
Thursday, because you're not evaluating. And something that I heard that I really like is, I think sometimes as coaches we get caught up in evaluating the technique, evaluating, was he going full speed, evaluating, did he do the right thing, sometimes in that order. Whereas like when you go to this format on Thursdays, you're not evaluating whether they're going hard, because you don't want them going hard. You're
Right.
really evaluating their level of execution.
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting that at a primary. And then when you get to Friday, it sounds like you're really focused on, you don't want them to have any more than 10 to 12 reps is the way I've, figured it out. So
Right.
we do a lot of situational stuff throughout the week, especially on Friday. So you kind of keep some of that situation, but when they're out there, they're going full speed. And that's kind of what,
Yeah.
as the, I've been in the game so long, and you have too, like,
Mm-hmm.
adjusting your mindset there to where you're going full speed on Friday is something that you really have to get over, and you really have to buy into. The key is to make sure that you're tracking so that they're only going 10 to 12 reps. So, it's very interesting, and something that, like I said, I don't know if we'll implement fully, but,
Right.
and then right before all this hit, we were on spring break, of course. I was able to go down, and Coach Nick Hill was gracious enough at Carbondale to let me come down and watch one of their spring practices, because they were able to get a few in.
Right.
And there was a couple of really neat things that they do that I was very interested in taking a look at, and I think we will. But I was really hoping to get a chance to see how that all played out.
Yeah.
Kind of a funny story about that. And I go down, and Coach Hill invites me in. I got there a little bit before they had a team meeting. He invites me into his office, and we're just kind of chatting about MBU football, Carbondale football, and that kind of stuff. I've met him a couple times, but I didn't really know him that well. And so I go in and I walk into the team room because they're going to have a team meeting, right? And he says, "Hey, you can sit in the back." And it's funny, as I'm walking in, Timmy Brenneisen is there, who of course played
Oh my
quarterback for us.
gosh.
He's a student coach down there. And then as the meeting broke, Deontay Cox comes up and says hello, and I totally forgot that those two guys were down there. But Timmy is doing well. He's a student coach,
Yeah.
and Deontay is they got him in there. His brother's there as well, and he's playing wide receiver. And Deontay looked pretty good in practice, so it was just kind of funny. I told Nick, I said, "Hey, quit stealing our team,"
Well, Spartan fans, just to let you guys know that the year that they played together, they actually set a school record, or Brenheisen did at that time in completions against the school that we play up north in Chicagoland.
Trinity, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Trinity. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He set a completion record at that time, and that was one of Cox's greatest games. I mean, him, Isaiah,
He had a great.
yeah, and a couple other people, but it was like a 3-touchdown game, and it was like kind of a breakout game. And oh yeah, I remember that vividly. I mean, yeah, Brenneisen and Cox. I mean, Cox, I think was Player of the Week actually in the conference that week. Yeah, so kind of funny that here you are going to do that. It's kind of. I'm glad you shared that. It's kind of funny.
It was fun.
I mean, I'm certainly glad to hear that both are doing well. Of course,
Sure.
That's pretty cool. So, all right, Coach. So we're gonna have to shift gears a little bit now, okay? Because I got to talk about what I'm still buzzing over this past week. Let's talk about Tuesday night. Tuesday night, in my opinion, was a historic night for MBU. If there was ever a day you want to talk about maybe a glimpse of what defines this university, talk about bringing together the community, bringing together families, and most importantly, celebrating virtually graduation on Tuesday night from 7 to 7:55 as our university live streamed that virtual graduation. I know for a lot of people it was very emotional. I know I was checking the chat on social media. It was amazing, the engagement. And I just wanted to, give you the opportunity to get your thoughts on that, but more importantly, to highlight some of the graduating seniors, because I got to tell you, every time I saw one of them pass by, it was just so cool just to see that, hey, they're getting their degree, they're moving on to that next level in the next chapter of their life. And from your perspective, now that, the program's, 6 years old now, we've finally got a big enough senior class where it's got to be pretty exciting to see these names flash on the screen. So I was wanting to get your input on that.
Well, I mean, it's really funny. And I one of the biggest things that I wish that we could have done, and I know everybody on campus feels the same way, is getting a chance to be at graduation and watch them walk across the stage. And we are technically required to be at graduation, but we would be there anyway because it's such a great night for our students.
Absolutely.
To me, the most fun part of graduation is before the march, before they read the names, when you can sneak beyond the curtain that the families can't go, and you see just the joy of them with their peers taking pictures. I love that time. And, I always try to find time to sneak back there and find our guys and congratulate them. And being a small campus, you get to know so many of the other students, not necessarily even student athletes, and develop a relationship with them and seeing them and congratulating them as well. So it's not just about, our football players, but just so many of the athletes that you get to see on a daily basis, So it's a great night, and we have a number of guys that graduated, officially on Tuesday night, and we have another handful of guys that they'll be done in a semester. They maybe have 1 year left, but honestly, it's probably the most proud that I get of our student athletes, because you see, one of the questions that I get a lot on junior day and in recruiting events is, what's your graduation rate?
Right.
And, that's always a tough question to answer, because I think our graduation rate of our, as guys become older, is relatively high. But as
Yeah.
you well know, being a private school and being a costly school, that there's a certain amount of attrition that our student body goes through. And so
Right.
when you get guys that make it um, through 4 years
Yep.
as a student athlete, and that's guy or girl, that how much they put in over 4 years, and they're
Hmm.
still earning a degree, and they're still graduating on time. Or if it takes them an extra semester, extra year, it doesn't matter. But they get to that finish line that
Yeah.
ultimately we brought them in to get them to, right?
Yeah.
The football aspect is great. We love it. I always call it 1A and 1B. 1A is academics, 1B is football. And
Right.
to get them to that point where many of them are the first time graduates in their family.
Hmm.
Like I think that's the case for Sergio Lopez,
Yeah.
and he's one of our graduates. And I think he's one of the first people in his family to graduate. I mean, what a cool deal that is, and to know how much work he's put in, not just on the football side, but academically,
Yeah.
um, it's just a very, very proud moment. Andrew Krause, Andrew Krause, he didn't need a degree. He's going to go and work on the family dairy farm. And,
Yeah.
he could have gone that route, but he made it a goal to get a degree. He knew how that was going to help him. He obviously played 4 years of football, and knowing what that guy did for 4 years,
Right.
this year getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go
Yeah.
do chores to make it to practice and
Yeah.
wasn't late. There's just so many cool stories like that. Just proud of all those guys that were able to walk across the stage. Ben Stratman, another guy able to get his degree. I know I'm leaving a few of the guys out, but Jack Russell, um,
Kendall.
Kendall Davis,
Yeah.
and I hope I'm not putting stuff out, but the COVID-19 has hit Kendall hard. I mean, there was a couple of his family, close family members, and
Right.
I don't want to put some of that out, but that contracted the COVID-19 and I think are doing okay now. But
Right.
that's a scary time, and you're finishing up school, and
Right.
but typical of Kendall, right? Kendall, since day one, he's just handled everything like a pro, and just so proud of all those guys.
Absolutely. And the other part I wanted to mention to you again, because I teach, part of my load in the graduate program is then seeing your GAs
Yeah,
graduate, just like
yeah,
Coach Ushholds yesterday, right? With a few of his guys, but seeing Bryson Barnes. I mean, let's just
yeah,
face it. I mean, come on, Iron Man. I mean, he's played in every game. I mean, he's the only Spartan not only to play in every game, but when he was done playing, he's been on the field coaching every game.
I know,
I
I
mean, what
know.
a story. Now he has his graduate degree, and you're like, when he came in, he was 18 years old, and now look at him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Now
about to get married. I mean, he's got his degree. He's about to get married. What a cool
yeah.
story to see, Barnesy, you
Oh,
know,
it's awesome, and
yeah,
he's I mean, what a great young guy he is. I mean,
yeah,
being able to be around him for 6 years has been a blessing.
yeah,
And like you said, he's going to be getting married. Um, both of them have a job lined up
yeah,
in Missouri to teach and coach, and I just couldn't be happier for him. I kind of kidded with him. We're going to have to find somebody to create a Bryson Barnes statue that we can put on the sideline, because I'm not sure I'm going to know what to do without him next to me on the sideline. He's been there since day one, just like Coach Kern and Coach Coe. And, then of course, Jalen, having
yeah, of
Jalen
course,
about up here, so and for him to get his master's and what that
yeah,
means to him, it's again, those guys right there, you develop a different type of relationship with them
yeah,
when you coach with them and they're there every day. But they put in a ton of time, and they put in a ton of work, and
yep,
to get their masters. And it's not all roses on that side. I mean, there's numerous times where we as full-time coaches are going home, and they're just opening their textbook because they've been putting in similar hours that we are, breaking down
yeah,
film, doing some of the grunt work, and then they still got their homework to do. So
right,
kudos to all those guys.
Yeah, I know. Again, just the graduation, I would have to say there's so many special things that Missouri Baptist does, but maybe the absolute icing on the cake is graduation for so many
Yeah.
reasons. And I think it's because of, like just for example, like those two guys you mentioned, they're both graduated in our program, in sport management. And to know their journey and to know what projects they, that they did, and to know even during the season how challenging it is sometimes, because of the 9-hour trips to Michigan and back, and how difficult that is and all that, trying to work with them. But when you just get to know them when they, come in so young, and then seeing them mature really as just men ready to take off and these rising stars that they are, it just brings a tear to your eye. And I know it did for me seeing
Yeah.
Barnes, because I've had him in class for, oh my gosh, all 6 years.
Yeah.
I've had him in class, and,
Yep.
so I got to know him at such a deep level. Then of course, like you said, all the stuff that he does on game day, well, he's up there in the booth right next to us, Kevin and I, where they set up,
Yeah.
doing all the film stuff and headsets and all that. So you really get a chance to know these young men, and it's just exciting to see them now, when they move on, but just seeing them grow in that process. And yeah, we were been so blessed with those two, certainly in the program. I know I'm going to miss them.
Oh gosh, yeah. And there's so many memories that come back with those guys, like Andrew Krause,
Yeah.
like it's so odd because I can still remember Andrew on his recruiting visit, and sitting in the back of the room, and we didn't know much about him, and here he comes in. He's a phenomenal long snapper.
Yeah.
Ben Stratman, same thing. Kendall, and again, I remember vividly, in my office, it was about 8:00 in the morning, maybe 7:45, and I'm on the phone with Kendall, and he commits and says he's going to be a Spartan, and that was such a huge moment for us because we knew we were getting a great player, we were getting a guy from a great program.
Yeah.
He was really the first real big domino to fall in that class, and then we get guys like Stratman and Isaiah
Right.
King, and I look at Sergio Lopez, and guess who recruited Sergio? Mike Sweat, Coach Sweat, recruited Sergio and Anthony, and Joey Moronis, and Jonathan Stein. He recruited all those guys, and to sit there, and I was on Twitter and I see a pop-up from Sweaty saying congrats Serge. It just brings back those fun memories, and it's just fun to go back and think about all that stuff.
Well, Coach, I think it just goes back to what we keep saying about a community. I'm actually just so blown away by how many former coaches still follow us on Twitter and still engage with things that they were involved with, like that. For example, Sweaty, and recruiting those guys from California and that whole West Coast thing you guys got going on. And again, it's just a sign of who we are as a program and as a university. That really is what anchors us, is that we are a big family and community. And I love seeing that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as we transition, as we start to wind things down, any thoughts on the upcoming season, and more importantly, what your expectations might be, knowing that you're going to be in a new home for the first time ever? It's going to be a historic season. I just want to, again, say thank you to Adam Sampson and Dr. Smith for a couple weeks ago, where we were able to share some insights with the whole Spartan field, the tailgating area, the scoreboard. I did ask them if they do instant replay on touchdowns, and would not confirm, but hopefully he will soon.
But he didn't deny.
But he didn't deny. I know, that's good. Because I think, how cool would that be,
Yeah.
See, that's why you can't just be on your phone, when we have offense, right? Or even defense, because we go pick six, right?
That's right.
So I just think there's so much excitement just coming our way this fall. And I was just wondering, if you could maybe frame it for the Spartan fans, what this means to you now. You'll be entering year 7, and as we have our new home right here,
well,
at Spartan Field.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to mean a lot. I think that first Well, this first season, the first game, is just going to be so special just
Yeah.
um, I guess, reflect,
Hmm.
look back at how far we've come. And, there's a lot of people that get credit for that. I mean, obviously Dr. Smith, Dr. Lacey,
Yeah.
who had this vision and got this ball rolling, Dr. Ross, kind of an unsung hero in this entire process, Ken Revenaugh,
Oh
who,
yeah. Oh yeah.
heads up and
Yeah.
really does all the planning and works a lot with the contractors to make sure that we, get what we need and
Yeah.
stay within budget. There's just so many people along the way that have contributed to this, and to know that I've been a small part in that and the cog in that wheel is super exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so no, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be very special to be out there. I know it's gonna be special for the guys. I really, really, it's not a regret. It is what it is. I think one thing that you realize is that when you leave a place, you hope it gets better.
Yeah.
Um, and I look at at Colorado, the facilities they have now, and the facilities we had when we were there. And then I also
Hmm.
looked at the facilities when we were there versus when they won a national title 10 years before, and night and day.
Right.
But I do wish that like a group like Isaiah and Kendall and
Hmm.
Ben and Sergio and those guys would have an opportunity to play um, on that
Yeah.
field. But it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has just really struck me, and this is something that we're going to talk a lot about as we get into training camp and we get these guys around, is this is our field now,
Right. Right.
and we've always talked about that you've got to perform well at home. We haven't always done that.
Right.
In fact, last year, we didn't do that very well. There were times at home where we performed very well, but we didn't win a home game.
Right.
But there's we have to understand now that this is our house,
Hmm.
and that it there is no CBC on there. It is Missouri Baptist's
Yeah.
hometown or home field,
Correct.
and it's got to be a place that we take it seriously when we play there, and we've got to own that. So that's just kind of a new thing, a new thought, and a new step. But it's going to be really, really exciting.
So hopefully we can build some sort of mystique with it, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
just to reference like the NFL, right? You got Lambeau Field, right? The frozen tundra.
yeah.
And then of course you've got playing in Foxborough. Who wants to ever play there against the Patriots? Well, I guess maybe now you do that Brady's gone, right? But for 20 years, you never wanted to go to Foxborough, right? Because
Right.
their record is so insane at home. But I'm just saying, I think there's something to be said about that. I would say that from being on a lot of the road games on broadcast, I think there's a few teams that we play in the NAI that have built that. They
Yeah.
built a mystique when you come there. I mean, you go to Marion, that place, oh my gosh, that's a rocking place. That's a
Yeah.
rocking atmosphere. And there's some other teams like that. I can't wait to see us developing that culture for our home sports, not just for football, but for all the sports that are playing there. I
Right.
just want that to, where we can build our own kind of mystique, if you would. And also, making sure we deliver on a great fan experience, so Spartan fans just feel that pride of
Yeah.
being part of Missouri Baptist University. And I know that was something I guess I enjoyed when I played college, that college experience at Western Illinois. Fortunately, I mean, we'd won our conference, but when you start really, getting to the level where you start getting the games, and you start, competing for those, conference championships or even going to the national playoffs, it's really amazing how the community then just really gets that much more behind you. And I know this is a building process again for the Spartans, but it's so exciting, like you said, Coach, that we finally have something that we can just create our own experiences for moving forward
Yeah.
starting this fall. And just want to again, say thanks, echo what you said to the administration, because this journey has been amazing to the level of what they've provided for our school.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great, and it's going to be that way for like you said, all sports.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Because
what
it's not
that's
just
what I'm.
yeah, it's not just a football thing. I mean, there's many sports that
Yeah.
can be playing up there. So
Yeah. So
kudos to the administration for that. So all right, Last thing I want to talk about, let's just take a look at Mr. Weatherman behind you. You can do the old green screen thing. Yeah, win for life.
Yeah.
I know recently we've been tweeting out on all social media platforms. You've been sharing with the Spartans, Spartan Nation, basically the 5 pillars of success. And I was just wondering, I know that this week, Coach Kern this morning put out actually a fantastic video about respect. I was wondering maybe if you could give us a little more framework for Spartan fans as to why this is so important to our program. I know I've heard you, like, over the years, always use this as the boat anchor to the program, and it's just wondering maybe you could share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into this, and this is a loose comparison, because I think obviously John Wooden's Pyramid of Success is just, unbelievable and unmatched.
Sure.
When you study that, that was almost 20 plus years of his experience that went into building that pyramid of success.
Right.
This is not something that we've come to overnight. It's something that, we've actually tweaked a little bit even this past year. But really what the Win for Life philosophy is years ago when I first got hired, I read a book, and the name of it's slipping my mind right now. It's a very popular book by Joe Ehrman, and it's Inside Out Coaching is what it is. And that's been a very, very popular book, and really the idea there is getting coaches to think rather than being transactional, which so many coaches over the years have been so transactional, to be transformational, and realize that if we can coach, and it's not just coaching, it's if we can appeal to the heart of the athlete, then we can appeal to how they perform and stuff like that, which has been a big piece of what we try to do.
Right.
So that's kind of and one of the things that he brought up that really struck with me is, with his athletes that he coaches like a high school team. With his athletes, he says, I'll tell you whether they're successful in 20 years, and whether or not they're living out what he coached them to do.
Right.
And many of them did. And so that's kind of where this Win for Life comes about. There's a whole bunch of people that I've studied, where we get some of the name is a little bit of stealing from Pete Carroll, and how, some of his philosophy that he has, and there's that slogan, "Win the Day," that Chip Kelly came up with. And it's kind of a combination of these different coaches that I respect and have studied. But really what we want to do is I want it to be a focal point that winning is important. Winning is definitely what we're about,
right?
But not just football games.
Right.
I don't want us to just solely be measured by football games, because that totally undervalues what we just spent a lot of time talking about, which is graduation, and
Right.
Bryson Barnes getting a master's and getting married, and he's going to have a successful life. Like
Right.
that right there makes me so proud of that guy.
Yep.
Dontrell Johnson got engaged, and I can't wait to see what happens with him. And as these guys get older and start having families, those are the things that just make me proud, is when they come back and they're still eager to tell you those things.
Yeah.
That tells me that we've had an impact on those guys. And so, I just believe these 5 pillars is really our rules. It's our culture. It's everything we talk about. It is the, rock foundation of our program. And that's why we don't change it a lot.
Right.
Scripture teaches us, right? Build your house on a solid foundation, and build your house on a rock. And so, all of this is kind of what we point to. I don't know if I can do my weatherman enough, but like your character, I'm getting good at being opposite there. But we start with character. Respect is very important. Those are two traits that I really feel like, and I tell recruits this, if you can embody these 5 traits,
Right.
you're never going to have to worry about getting a job. You're never going to have to worry about going in and asking your boss for a promotion, because who isn't going to want to promote and hire somebody that is a man of character, is respectful, shows up and competes, loves what they do, loves one another, and that you can trust. That's exactly what we want, right? That's what we want in a football player, but that's also what employers and people in society want. That's what we want out of everybody every day anyway.
Right.
So, the other aspect is a lot of this comes from not just coaches that I've studied, but the best coaches that I've ever had, which is my parents.
Mm.
I mean, this is I'm so blessed to have 2 supportive parents that, drive 1,000 miles and have yet to miss a home game in 6 years,
Yeah.
So these are all traits and things that they taught me and my sister growing up, and they still teach us today and expect out of us today. And, why reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, if this is what we as parents want our kids to be, then let's as coaches echo the same thing. So
Right.
it's just a big philosophy for us. It is the crux of what we do. It's something we talk about at every recruiting event, something I go through on the virtual junior days. Anytime that I'm in front of recruits, we talk about these 5 pillars. And anytime I'm in front of the team, we're going to teach one of these pillars.
Right.
And then underneath, we've kind of have the subcategories of traits that we look for.
Yep.
And we tie each one in with a quote that we feel just kind of summarizes what that trait, that pillar is. So, it's been a work in progress, but I'm really proud of where we're at with it, and I'm really proud of how our guys, for the most part, do a good job of embodying it. And it's real simple. If you can't embody these 5 things, then we probably don't want you on our program.
Right. And you say that every time I've heard you get in front of recruits. You're very
Yeah,
open to say that, and for good reason, because again, you missing any one of those 5, do you really fit into this culture? Probably
right,
not, right?
right. And I think one of the things, and Coach Bowden, he hits you with some things sometimes that just you just got to sit down and really think about what he said. I mean,
Yeah.
um, and one of the things that he said, I think it was 2 years ago, is um, it was just me and him, and he said, Coach, those 5 pillars, um, those extend to coaches too, right? And
Wow.
I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, so are we going to enforce them with coaches too? And yeah. And I think, not that we were slipping in that, but there were some areas where maybe we could have been more respectful on how we interacted with the guys. And I think
Right.
that is the ultimate mark of a leader, of what Jesus teaches us, right? Is that
Yep.
Jesus teaches us the servant leadership, which is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, and it rightfully so, right? Jesus was the ultimate servant.
Of
Um,
course.
but the way I view that as well is modeling.
Right.
He modeled for us how we should be.
Right.
And it is our job to model for our players what we expect. So if you can't, as a member of our staff, as myself,
Hmm.
present these 5 things, then maybe we need to check. Maybe we need to look at um, start with me. If I can't model
Right.
those, then it's time that the university finds a new head coach, or this whole thing gets scrapped
Right.
and we got to start over.
Right.
So that's really where it starts. And that kind of actually leads me in, and we can talk a little bit more about it, because I could talk about our pillars all day. I'm sure Spartan fans probably are getting bored of hearing me talk, but it does kind of lead me into the fact that we did finalize and hire a new offensive line coach, a guy named Sean Schnabel from Black Hills State University, which is a D2 school. He was been up there for a long time. I just can't be more excited to add him to our staff. I think he's a guy who embodies all 5 of these pillars, works hard,
Yeah.
has done a great job for us in the month and a half that he's been with us, even though he hasn't been able to be on campus. But just a hardworking, down to earth guy, and I can't wait to get him up here. And it's kind of funny how small the world is, because I get a phone call recommending him from a guy who was on staff with him for a couple of years, and this guy is his name is Ben Levine, and literally Ben and I were best friends from first grade on.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just kind of funny how the whole world is small, and he calls to check in and also recommend Sean, so it was kind of a fun deal.
Coach, I got to tell you, it just seems that, again, God continues to have his hand on this program. Certainly, sounds like he's given you quite some wisdom during this COVID-19 situation. And I do want to just share with you, Coach, I had never heard you ever tell that story about you and Coach Bowden and about that applying for the coaches. It does make a lot of sense. And I'm going to introduce a brand new segment to your show. I'm going to have what I call the Danhoff mic drop moment, literally have a microphone. And on that with the coaches, I just dropped it. So there you go, your mic drop moment. Sorry, I teach a social media class that I used it as a prop, a couple of weeks ago, and students loved it. I thought it was really cool, the mic drop moment. So anyways, that was just really cool that you shared that, because, again, I mean, that's the core foundation for this program and for our university. And anyways, Coach, I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know fans, I hope you don't mind that we ran a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Let's just face it, we haven't talked to Spartan fans for 6-7 weeks or something crazy?
Yeah, it's been
close
a while.
to that. Yeah, it's been a while. So, and then, of course, any updates that happen this summer, we'll be sure to obviously go live with another special edition broadcast of the Coach's Show. Coach, thanks for taking the time and certainly, sharing with as much as you did. Spartan fans, we want to thank you guys for watching and always supporting our program. And we just can't wait till we make announcements on what the fall schedule is going to look like, so we can all get really excited about, the fall and hopefully this transition from COVID to obviously getting back to whatever new normal might be, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, since you introduced a new segment, do I get to introduce a new segment then?
Go ahead. It's your show.
Oh, well, that's awesome. So, so I think if you're going to introduce a mic drop moment, then I think, what we may need to do, as long as we're working from home and dealing with this COVID-19, give some of our viewers a laugh, and we'll come up with a short, brief segment we'll put on social media called Farm Friday, and I'll record a glimpse into my second life, and it may not always be the prettiest thing. You may not recognize me because I might be getting run over by a steer or something like that. But we'll introduce something fun on Fridays that we'll call Farm Fridays, and we'll launch it.
I say we go for it, Coach. Again, I mean, I think there's just something to be said about that. I mean, like, what are people doing? I mean, I was very vocal. If people want to know about me, go to my Facebook page. I've been posting stuff about my music career when I actually had a brief one, but I did. I played professionally for a few years, very active in church, being part of worship teams, and playing with, people who won Dove Awards, Grammy Awards, and a lot of people don't know that. And I was like, well, kind of got it out of the vault. Part of it was too because my daughter, who's 14, doesn't know any of that about me, and I wanted to share that with her. But it's been kind of neat sharing it, certainly with the Spartan fans and with people who follow me on Facebook. So, it's like, yeah, that was a part of my life back, 20 years ago, but still, I'm looking forward to your Farm Friday. Now, we're going to have to talk about some programming on this one, right? Because, oh my goodness, who knows what you're going to show. But I guess I might have to call Andrew Krause to help with the creative on this side, because I got to tell you, from talking to him outside of class, this guy had amazing stories on stuff that goes out on the farm.
Oh, yeah. You never know.
I know. So I can only imagine what you're going to show on this reality TV, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, we helped deliver 2 calves this week, and it's.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's cool. Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, getting drug around by something, I don't know. It's fun. So
Well,
keeps me
hey,
busy.
Spartan fans, I will tell you one thing. I can tell you when he's baling hay, because when I see you by the start of camp, you've actually lost weight.
Oh
And then
man.
I ask you, what have you been doing all summer? And you just give me that look like, yeah, farm work.
Yeah.
In the 100-degree days, right? In July, 100-degree days.
Yeah.
No air conditioning in that one place
No.
you store it, right?
No, and no air conditioning and no volunteers to help either.
Well,
So,
oh my gosh, Coach, that's too funny. All right,
yeah.
Spartan fans, we want to thank you guys for watching. Certainly the special editions on our social distancing, right? As we obviously, hopefully soon come to the conclusion of COVID-19, so we can, get back into some sort of normalcy, whatever that may be. We do know that God's in absolute control, and we're so thankful that we can stand on his firm foundation. Coach, I want to thank you again. Spartan fans, thank you for watching. For Coach B, I am Guy Danhoff, and we want to thank you guys for watching this special edition MBU Football Coaches Show with Coach B. God bless.